the year I came of age. I waited with full joy for Mateo to propose, but I accidentally caught him secretly meeting with another woman. He said, "What our elders joked about while we were still in the womb doesn't count." I became a girl abandoned by her fiancé, pointed at and gossiped about. So, I turned around and entered the palace. When we met again, Mateo could only kowtow and salute me from afar. After the imperial edict for conferring a consort was issued, the mansion was brightly decorated. Mother's eyes were red from crying. My poor daughter, just got dumped by that heartless Lu family boy, and now heading to that bone-devouring place. I comforted her. "Mother, I've instantly become the noble consort. It's an enormous blessing. We should be happy." She slowly shook her head, looking at me with heartache. "Those people in the palace, which one is easy to deal with? It's all my fault. I always thought the Lu family was simple, and you and Mateo had a good bond since childhood, so I never taught you anything, just protected you too well. From now on, how will you survive in the palace?" I gently reassured her. "That's not true at all. Mother has taught me so many things. Once I'm in the palace, I'll protect myself well." Mother turned her back and secretly wiped her tears. When she turned back, the redness in her eyes hadn't faded, but a loving smile had already risen at the corner of her lips. Her gaze was firm. "There are still 5 days before you enter the palace. Let's prepare more." A mix of warmth and bitterness surged in my heart. What warms me is my mother's love. What pains me is my broken engagement and the fact that I have to enter the palace. I responded and said seriously, "I'll listen to whatever mother says." Father sent someone to summon me to the study. I pushed the door open and entered, only to see father sitting upright at his desk, writing with fluid strokes, seemingly unaware of my arrival. I softly called out, "Father." Father didn't stop writing, only slightly lifted his head, his gaze resting on me for a moment before he lowered it again and continued writing quickly. After a while, he asked, "Is your mother feeling any better?" In response to father, "Mother is much better now." Father said, "Your mother gets flustered because she cares too much." He put down his brush. A faint, barely, their smile playing at the corners of his mouth, pointed to the still, wet calligraphy, and said, "Come, take a look at this piece. How's the writing?" I stepped up to the desk and saw the words, "Strike to defend." The strokes pierced through the paper, sharp as blades, emanating a fierce energy, bold and forceful, with perfect spacing. Father's calligraphy keeps getting better. A trace of approval appeared on father's face. Right after, the satisfaction in his eyes turned into strong expectations. "I hope that once you're in the palace, you can remember these 4 words." My heart skipped a beat, filled with doubt. I asked, "Father hopes his daughter will take the initiative to vie for favor." Father nodded slightly and began to explain gently. "The current empress is Grand Preceptor Shin's daughter, and she grew up with the emperor as childhood sweethearts. They say the emperor and empress are loving and harmonious, but 3 pregnant consorts have died in the palace in a row, and the emperor still has no heir. You were named noble consort even before entering the palace. This is clearly the emperor trying to set up a rival for the empress. Only by going with the flow and becoming the favored consort can you win even a sliver of survival in the palace." As he weighed every word, father had already mapped out the chessboard of my future. Every move placed was a dangerous one. If I win, it's a ladder to glory. If I lose, it's a bottomless abyss. I responded, "Yes, your daughter will remember your teachings." Then I asked, "Has the emperor made any arrangements for father?" The front court and the harem have always been one big game of chess. Since the emperor uses me as a piece to counter the empress, how could he let father stay out of the game? The study fell silent for a moment. Father tapped the desk lightly with his fingers, a barely noticeable look of approval flashing in his eyes, and spoke in a slow and steady tone. "I serve as minister of the Ministry of Personnel. Though the rank isn't as high as the Grand Preceptor, the authority isn't less than his. We should be evenly matched. But Grand Preceptor Shin has a daughter who became the empress, so I often lose to him. However, once you enter the palace, this balance in the court will change because of you." Sure enough, both father and I are tools for the emperor to balance power. Success brings wealth and glory. Failure leads to total ruin. As I left the study and just reached the moon gate, a maid rushed over to report, "Miss, young Master Lu has arrived." I answered without hesitation, "Not seeing him. The engagement has been called off. There's no need for us to meet. Besides, I'm about to enter the palace. If he comes to see me now and the emperor finds out, thinking there's still something going on between us, I'd be in deep trouble, and he wouldn't escape it either. Mateo isn't some rash, foolish man. He shouldn't be acting this senselessly." As I walked and pondered, I reached the corridor, only to see Mateo walking toward me head on. When he saw me, he frowned slightly, his eyes filled with reluctance. He doesn't want to see me, yet he still came. What could possibly be so important? He frowned and said, Olivia, I heard you're entering the palace. I took a deep breath and replied seriously, young Master Lu, you're a reasonable man. Isn't it inappropriate to call a lady by her given name so casually? Lu Mateo looked at me in disbelief. What? Now, did he actually think I'd still treat him kindly? It took him a moment before he finally said, Miss Jing. I gave a mocking smile. May I ask what important matter brings young Master Lu to my residence? Miss Jing, I originally came to kindly remind you of something. Oh. I lifted my tone and raised an eyebrow. What is it? Lu Mateo seemed to be swallowing back a mouthful of anger, and the way he looked at me was like I was someone who didn't know what's good for her. I couldn't help but let out a snort of laughter. He said, I heard that Her Majesty the Empress doesn't like blue. A few years ago, a new concubine entered the palace wearing a blue ruchuan, and not long after, the Empress found an excuse to get rid of her. Hearing that, I couldn't help but glance at him again. Such secrets. If someone wanted to dig around, I'm sure they could find them out. But why would Lu Mateo know this, and even go out of his way to warn me? Surely it can't be because he's worried about me. Thank you for the warning, young Master Lu. If there's nothing else, I won't see you out. Jing Sophia, take care of yourself. Lu Mateo flicked his sleeves and left. I told the maid, go tell the steward and the gatekeepers, don't just let any filth into the house. If it happens again, I'll have to ask Mother to punish them. Lu Mateo's behavior is truly strange. I reported everything to Mother in full detail, wanting to discuss it with her. Mother asked, what do you think? I replied, ever since I caught him secretly meeting a woman, I stopped trusting him. I just don't quite get why he'd come to me about this. Mother said with relief, looks like my daughter really has moved on. Then, she suddenly changed the subject. The Shin family's second daughter likes to wear blue. I carefully thought over what Mother meant. That day, I accidentally caught Lu Mateo secretly meeting a woman. He shielded her protectively behind him. I didn't see her face, but I clearly saw she was wearing a blue dress. Could it be that the person secretly meeting with Lu Mateo is Xianxia? You finally figured it out. I couldn't help but sneer repeatedly. So, Lu Mateo looked down on our Jing family and went to cling to a higher branch. Mother smiled indifferently. Silly girl, you should thank them. They delivered themselves to your door to be your stepping stone. I thought for a moment. Mother means, you Xianxia. Mother gave a slight nod. I entered the palace with the ceremony of a noble consort and was granted residence in Zhaoyang Hall, a rank second only to the Empress. My arrival was like tossing a giant rock into the lake, shattering the surface calm and forcing the undercurrents to surge out. I chose a set of blue robes and headed to Jiafeng Hall, where the Empress resided, to pay respects. Inside the grand hall, it was filled with a flock of court ladies. I bowed to the Empress, and the other consorts bowed to me. The Empress spoke gently. Noble consort Jing, have a seat. Yet within this grand hall, only the lowest seat remained vacant. This was the Empress giving me a show of dominance. If I swallowed my pride today, then tomorrow would bring arrows from all directions. My clash with the Empress was inevitable, neither good nor bad, merely a matter of interests. I slightly raised an eyebrow and let my gaze fall on the seat just below the Empress, smiling faintly as I said, did Attendant Qing sit in the wrong place? Take a look at who's sitting beneath you. It's Sister Consort Xu. Before entering the palace, I had already memorized the list of all the consorts. Attendant Qing has always relied on the Empress's backing and never cared about anyone else. She let out a chuckle, her lips curled in mockery. Noble consort Qing is new here, so she might not know. Our Empress and all the sisters are warm and easygoing. When we gather together with no outsiders around, we just sit wherever there's a spot. No need to fuss over protocol. She glanced at the last seat, clearly hinting that I should sit there. The Empress acted like she didn't notice, sipping her tea with her head down, since she chose to turn a blind eye. Then she can't blame me for targeting her pawn. I stepped closer to Attendant Qing, smiling sweetly, though my eyes were cold as ice. What if I insist on following the rules with you, Attendant Qing? Then it means noble consort Qing doesn't respect the Empress. As soon as she finished, I raised my hand. Smack. I slapped her across the face. Everyone was stunned. Consort Ji Shu, sitting nearby, looked like she wanted to speak up but held her tongue in the end. Attendant Qing covered half her face, staring at me in disbelief. Then, crying, she turned to the Empress and said, Your Majesty, noble consort Qing struck a fellow consort right in front of you. Please stand up for me. The Empress finally spoke. That's enough. All of you, you're giving me a headache with your squabbling. I sneered. My dear sister just entered the palace, and attendant Qing couldn't wait to replace her. Yet Her Majesty the Empress turns a blind eye. Those who know might say the Empress is kind and spoils the palace women until they lose all decorum. Those who don't, who knows what gossip they're spreading behind her back. The Empress's face turned cold as water, and she scolded angrily. Insolence. Instantly, the concubines all fell silent like cicadas in winter. I chuckled softly. My laughter was the only sound in the grand hall. After a long moment, the Empress said, "Attendant Qing, by your rank, you shouldn't be sitting there." Attendant Qing rose to apologize. "Yes, I overstepped. Please forgive me, Your Majesty the Empress." The Empress chose to retreat in order to advance, so I chose to push my advantage. Just like father said, with my background and situation, I should go on the offensive as a means of defense. I let out a light snort and walked to that seat, coming to a slow stop. Then, my gaze swept over every face in the hall, finally landing back on Attendant Qing. I spoke unhurriedly. I heard Attendant Qing's father served as a circuit judge for 10 years, always rated as average in the Ministry of Personnel's assessments, with stable but unremarkable performance. That evaluation result implies that official Qing might be demoted. Meanwhile, my father serves as Minister of Personnel, in charge of all civil and military appointments, assessments, rewards and punishments, and noble titles. Among the beauties in the hall, someone burst into laughter. Attendant Qing turned pale with fright because of me, hurriedly looking toward the Empress. But the Empress simply changed the subject. The Imperial Kitchen just brought in a new southern chef who makes all sorts of fancy little pastries. Sisters, have a taste. I gave a light sneer and raised my voice just as Beauty Lu made room for Attendant Qing. "Attendant Qing, there's an empty seat over there. Don't go stealing Beauty Lu's spot." I wasn't just aiming at Attendant Qing. I was slapping the Empress in the face too. The hall instantly fell dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. The Empress's face darkened, and she said nothing. I chatted and laughed freely, completely at ease. This was probably what people meant when they called someone arrogant and domineering. All the color drained from Attendant Qing's face, and her lips turned deathly pale from being bitten. In the end, with her neck bowed like it was snapped, she walked toward the last seat under everyone's gaze. She took the hit for the Empress, trying to disgrace me, so I can't be blamed for using her to make an example, and slapping the Empress in the process. Turns out, the more arrogant and domineering I acted, the more favored I became. Rewards came pouring into Zhaoyang Hall. I strung large pearls into bead curtains, used cloud brocade for cushions, and even antique vases for flower arrangements. In just a few days, I had redirected almost all of the Empress's firepower onto myself. The Emperor grew even more pleased with me and showered me with more gifts. Father sent someone with a message. He's now heavily favored by the Emperor. While Grand Preceptor Shen was impeached by the censorate, Father told me to be cautious. Inside the palace walls, the tide was shifting quietly. People were starting to join my side. Like right now, Beauty Lu came to request an audience. She had delicate features and wasn't of the lowest rank, yet she always kept her head down, looked obedient, and often seemed anxious. And I was an arrogant, domineering noble consort. I said impatiently, "Beauty Lu, if you've got something to say it straight. Don't beat around the bush in front of me." Beauty Lu bit her lip, then suddenly dropped to her knees with a thud. When she lifted her face, her eyes brimmed with tears as she pleaded miserably, "Please, noble consort, save my younger brother." In the list of concubines my mother gave me, the name Beauty Lu was specially marked. 2 months ago, her younger brother harassed a common girl on the street and was caught red-handed by Xianxia. Xianxia scolded the spoiled brat on the spot, earning praise from the crowd. Beauty Lu's younger brother was taken into custody by the Court of Judicial Review and hasn't been released since. I stared closely at Beauty Lu, studying her face. After a moment, I said meaningfully, "Before I entered the palace, I happened to hear an amusing story." Beauty Lu wiped away her tears and said seriously, "Although my younger brother has been mischievous since childhood, he's also read in poetry and literature. He would never do something like harassing a girl in public. Besides, even if my younger brother was being foolish and rowdy, he was fortunate enough to be stopped by second Miss Shen. That shouldn't warrant being locked up by the Court of Judicial Review for this long. Please, noble consort, save my brother." She was curled up on the ground, kneeling with her thin shoulders trembling violently. I picked up the teacup and slowly scraped the tea with the lid, appearing casual as I said, "Beauty Lu, your brother's life is precious, but other families' innocent girls can just suffer grievances at will." Beauty Lu slowly lifted her head, tear streaks on her face. "The Lu family is willing to compensate that girl. If her reputation is damaged and she has nowhere to go, the Lu family is willing to take her in as one of our own. Can you speak on behalf of the Lu family? Reporting to the noble consort, I'm confident I can persuade my parents. I smiled and said, Beauty Lu, hurry and rise, don't kneel. How could I possibly interfere in your family's affairs? Beauty Lu's expression brightened, and she bowed deeply. Thank you for your guidance, noble consort. I'll take my leave. As for Xianxia, I had already investigated everything before entering the palace. That day, at the Zhuangyuan Pavilion Poetry Gathering, spring exam scholars gathered, even great scholars of the era attended. The nobility of the capital flocked there, eager to emulate the charm of the literati. Xianxia happened to be passing by the Zhuangyuan Pavilion and just so happened to witness young Master Lu bullying a respectable girl. Young Master Lu was taken away by the Court of Judicial Review and has been detained ever since. Xianxia dazzled the crowd, making those scholars and noble youths bow to her charm. It was then that Lu Mateo fell for her at first sight. He even defied Uncle Lu and Aunt for her, insisting on breaking off the engagement with me. Outside the palace, with guidance from my people, the Lu family quickly found that woman. When Beauty Lu returned to Zhaoyang Hall, the confusion and helplessness in her eyes had faded, replaced by determination. Noble consort, my younger brother offended the Grand Preceptor's second daughter. Please, help me save him. I picked at my nails, but that's the Empress's sister. How can I save him? Beauty Lu glanced at the attendants in the hall. I dismissed everyone else. Beauty Lu spoke through clenched teeth. To tell the truth, noble consort, I told my parents to send someone to find that woman and apologize. Turns out, she was found at the Pear Garden. According to her statement, she's a Dan role in an opera troupe. Someone gave her a silver ingot and told her to act in that little play. She also said that person was way too powerful, and she didn't dare refuse. So it wasn't my younger brother who harassed her, but she was ordered to set him up. I nodded lightly. With this woman as a witness, your brother's trouble can be resolved. Beauty Lu's eyes instantly turned red as she spoke with a trembling voice. My father personally took the woman to the Court of Judicial Review, but they claimed the words of an actress can't be trusted and refused to release my brother. It's not wrong to say one person's word can't be trusted. That's the Court of Judicial Review's reasoning, but my father already made quiet inquiries. It's that they don't dare offend the Shen family. They're just bullying the weakened Lu family. Of course I already knew. The capital city was crawling with power and prestige, but among all the noble young lords present, the Lu family had the weakest influence. And just before that day, Beauty Lu had shared the emperor's bed for 2 nights in a row. Beauty Lu tilted her head slightly, forcing back the tears that were about to fall, her voice carrying a barely noticeable rasp. Noble consort, the Shen family has an empress and a grand preceptor. They're pushing us too far. Right now, only you, noble consort, can stand up for me and my family. I gently tapped the armrest of the chair with my fingertips, my gaze heavy on her face, words cold as frost. You've got some nerve, trying to stir up trouble between me and the Empress. Beauty Lu hastily replied, I wouldn't dare, noble consort. My younger brother is being tortured in the Court of Judicial Review's prison. My family has nowhere else to turn. By the end, she was sobbing uncontrollably, completely overwhelmed by her emotions. Only after she cried herself out and calmed down did I speak slowly. Beauty Lu, you'll have to give me a reason to help you. I am willing to serve you, noble consort, and follow your lead from now on. I let out a mocking laugh. I've no shortage of people to serve me, though this situation does work in my favor. In this palace, who doesn't wear 9 different masks? If she wants me to enjoy helping her, then what does she have to offer me? Beauty Lu's expression hardened. She bit her lip tightly, nails digging deep into her palm. In just a moment, she made up her mind, reporting to noble consort. My father has been an official for many years, though he's not influential. He does have some colleagues with whom he gets along well. Tomorrow at the morning court, they will jointly impeach Grand Preceptor Shen. Such a serious matter is definitely not something Beauty Lu could decide on her own. This shows the Lu family had this plan in place for a while, yet Beauty Lu kept it hidden until now. She wasn't fully open with me, so naturally, I have to be wary of her too. At the morning court, several ministers jointly accused Grand Preceptor Shen of failing to teach his daughter properly. Failing to guide Xianxia properly isn't much of a concern, but Grand Preceptor Shen also has a daughter who's the Empress. If this charge is established, wouldn't it basically mean the Empress is lacking in virtue? Minister Lu tearfully pleaded for justice for his wronged son. When I arrived at Jiafeng Hall, Beauty Lu was kneeling inside the hall, sobbing uncontrollably. I walked straight past her without a glance, greeted the Empress, and then sat at the seat just below her. Ever since the first day I came to greet her and had attendant Qing moved to the end seat, that spot has always been saved for me, whether I show up or not. A palace maid served tea. I picked up the teacup, gently scraped the tea with the lid, then put it down again. After that, I casually asked, why is Beauty Lu still kneeling? What grievance has she suffered? Beauty Lu, eyes full of tears as if wronged by the heavens, choked out sobs as she spoke. My younger brother has been imprisoned by the Court of Judicial Review for 2 months. My father has no way to save his son, so he filed an accusation against the Empress's father during this morning's court session. The Empress kept a straight face and said, the harem must not interfere in politics. Matters of the court are not for us sisters to concern ourselves with. Beauty Lu, stop crying. As for your brother, the Emperor will make a fair judgment. I chuckled. Beauty Lu, if you keep kneeling, the Empress will say you don't trust the Emperor. Beauty Lu, frightened, hurriedly got up and returned to her seat. Consort Jishu, who used to be quiet like a quail, also let out a soft laugh. Look how scared Beauty Lu is. Our Emperor is a wise ruler. If young Master Lu has been wronged, he'll surely get justice. The others chimed in as well, comforting Beauty Lu and urging her to ease her mind. I couldn't help but curl my lips into a smile. The Empress only showed a slight chill in her eyes, then gently said, I'm feeling a bit tired. You may all leave now. The concubines took their leave. After only a few steps, Consort Jishu caught up with me, affectionately linked arms with mine, and said with a bright smile, I've never felt so satisfied as I did today. I giggled and said, Sister Shu, this is just the beginning. Consort Jishu said, ever since noble consort came to the palace, things have really livened up. Today, everyone actually dared to say things that don't please the Empress right to her face. I raised an eyebrow. The Empress is kind, but I'm arrogant and domineering. Aren't you sisters afraid of me? Consort Jishu beamed. You're all bark and no bite. You look fierce, but who have you actually hurt? But that one in the central palace is different. How many people have died by her hands over the years? At this point, Consort Jishu's expression turned serious. Noble consort, open attacks are easy to dodge. It's the sneaky ones you need to watch out for. Be careful. I nodded. Thanks for the reminder. Sister Shu. Xianxia entered the palace to request an audience with the Empress. I conveniently appeared at a spot she had to pass, and sure enough, I spotted that elegant figure in blue from afar. I looked closely at her figure and gait. Yep, she was definitely the one who had the secret rendezvous with Lu Mateo that day. Xianxia liked the color blue. The Empress hated it, yet she still wore blue attire every day, even coming into the palace dressed like that to see the Empress. These two sisters clearly held quite the grudge. As Xianxia came closer, she bowed. Greetings, noble consort. Second Miss Shin. Why are your eyes all red? Did the Empress scold you or something? Thank you for your concern, noble consort Jing. It was just the wind making my eyes tear up. I chuckled. Oh, it's not that I care. I just wanted to remind you. What I hate most is someone wearing the same color in front of me. Xianxia's face went pale then dark. But I'm the noble consort and she's just a minister's daughter. All she could do was bow and apologize. Please forgive me, noble consort. I didn't know you. I cut her off. Enough. I'm magnanimous. I won't hold it against you. Thank you, noble consort. I'll take my leave. Xianxia hurried away. I just love seeing these people try to take me down but can't do a damn thing about it. From behind the pillar, Beauty Lu hesitated out, head lowered, sneaking a careful glance at me. I noticed she was wearing blue attire and instantly got the hint. I chuckled. I don't hate others wearing the same color as me. I just purely hate Xianxia. Beauty Lu suddenly looked up, joy flickering in her eyes. Noble consort, you deliberately provoked Xianxia just now to vent for me. I'm truly grateful. It was nothing. If it annoys her, I'm happy to do it. Was it just to vent? Of course not. It was to make Lu Mateo come see me on his own. If he doesn't come, how can I make the Emperor let go of his grudge and truly favor me? I went to the Imperial study to bring soup to the Emperor. On my way back to Zhaoyang Hall, just as I turned around the corridor, I saw Lu Mateo. He stood there with his hands behind his back, clearly waiting for me. Xianxia and Lu Mateo really didn't let me down. One got humiliated by me in the hall and ran off to complain to her lover the moment she left the palace. Another one got upset over their sweetheart being scolded by the ex-fiancé, so they came to argue with the old flame, trying to get an explanation for their sweetheart. Heh, as the old flame, I honestly don't know if I should be angry or amused. The attendant barked. How dare you? You see the noble consort and still don't bow or move aside. Lu Mateo furrowed his brow ever so slightly, bent over and saluted. Your subject Lu Mateo pays respects to the noble consort. I spoke with great magnanimity. Young Master Lu, you may rise. With that said, I didn't hesitate in the slightest and kept walking slowly along the palace path. Lu Mateo stopped me. Your Highness, I boldly overstepped my bounds and wish to speak with you privately. I replied calmly and without emotion. Since you know it's overstepping, better not mention it. He said, I heard some rumors outside the palace. About your Highness. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, let's hear it. Young Master Lu. Lu Mateo glanced meaningfully at the maid and eunuch behind me. I consider myself upright with nothing to hide. If you have something to say, just say it. Young Master Lu. Lu Mateo's eyes flickered. He looked up at me several times, only to lower his gaze again, leaving behind nothing but a silent sigh at the corner of his lips. I've always hated that hesitant, wishy-washy look of his. I didn't stop anymore and continued walking. After returning to Zhaoyang Hall, I went into the inner hall to rest. About the time it takes for 2 cups of tea, Luna came into the hall to serve. She's been with me since childhood and entered the palace with me, so of course I trust her. Luna reported, my lady. Xiao Zhuzi made another excuse to go out, and I followed him near Weiyang Palace. I wasn't surprised at all by this. The emperor uses me as a pawn. Of course he'd plant a couple people by my side. There's probably more than just Xiao Zhuzi in the shadows. In just a short while, word of my meeting with Lu Mateo will likely spread through all 6 palaces. I told Luna, act like you know nothing. At court, my father lashed out at the officials of the Court of Judicial Review. Young Master Lu was released, and the head of the Court of Judicial Review was scolded by the emperor. Beauty Lu came to Zhaoyang Hall in high spirits to see me and even brought a gift. Noble consort, this is osmanthus wine my mother brewed. It was just delivered to the palace today, and I thought I'd bring a jar for you to taste. Beauty Lu, how thoughtful of you. Thank your mother on my behalf. The smile on Beauty Lu's face grew even warmer. In the next moment, she furrowed her brows and lowered her eyes, unwillingly saying, Shinzara falsely accused my brother just to hog the spotlight, making him serve 2 months of wrongful imprisonment, and he was tortured while in jail. My family ran all over the place, spent all our money trying to save him, and the real culprit, she and the Shin family didn't suffer a single bit. I sighed lightly, without stirring my lips, only offering comfort and reassurance. The Shin family may be powerful, but evil deeds lead to ruin. The emperor is wise and will judge fairly. We just need to be patient. His Majesty will give justice to your brother and the Lu family. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Xiao Zhuzi giving an almost imperceptible nod. Beauty Lu also gave a slight nod. I understand, Your Grace. Perhaps she truly did understand, but I didn't entirely agree myself. Some things, I'd rather fight for than wait for. What I said just now was meant not only for Beauty Lu, but also for the emperor. Not long after Beauty Lu took her leave, the emperor arrived at Zhaoyang Hall. Without realizing it, he began coming more and more often, staying longer and longer each time. Sometimes, he would just stare at me, zoning out while looking. He'd even praise me for being considerate and understanding. If I was a fake favored consort when I first entered the palace, then now, it was real. As the arrogant and vicious noble consort, I provoked the empress once again. That night, just as the emperor was preparing to stay at Zhaoyang Hall, a eunuch from Jiafeng Hall came to report that the empress was ill. The emperor frowned impatiently and said, if she's sick, summon the imperial physician. I gently advised, the empress's health is unwell, and I'm also deeply worried. I boldly asked the emperor to visit Her Majesty. I only hope the empress recovers soon. The 6 palaces remain peaceful, and the emperor can have fewer worries. The emperor looked at me with even more satisfaction. After that, he went to the empress's Jiafeng Hall. I stretched lazily, freshened up, and then happily lay down to sleep. As the paper on the window started to show a bluish-white glow, Luna entered the inner hall to check. Seeing that I was awake, she asked, Your Highness, it's still early, would you like to sleep a bit longer? I was no longer sleepy, so I stayed in bed, wrapped in my quilt, and lazily asked on my side, anything interesting happened last night? Luna curled her lips, just about to report to Your Highness. After the emperor went to Jiafeng Hall last night, he left with a hint of anger after just 2.5 hours. I let out a light scoff. If the empress can bribe the imperial physician to fake illness, then of course I can also make the physician switch sides. Once the emperor finds out the empress faked illness just to win favor, and then compares it to my gentleness and thoughtfulness, how could his heart not shift? Did the emperor return to Zhaoyang Hall? He did. Luna's smile deepened, and her whole demeanor brightened up. Following Your Highness's orders, I hurried off pretending to head to the Imperial Pharmacy Bureau. and happened to meet the emperor outside Zhaoyang Hall. The emperor asked me what was going on, so I told him your highness was a light sleeper, and I was off to the Imperial Pharmacy Bureau to get some sleep. Aiding incense. The emperor paused for a moment while looking at Zhaoyang Hall, then left. Hearing that, I couldn't hide the smile in my brows and eyes. I sat up from the couch and asked, did he return to the imperial study, or to Weiyang Palace? Back to the imperial study. The emperor reviewed memorials until the third watch, changed clothes. Let's go add another log to the fire. I headed to Jiafeng Hall to greet the empress. Outside the hall, the empress's eunuch was blocking the concubines who came to pay respects. When they saw me coming, they made way. A eunuch from Jiafeng Hall stepped forward and saluted. Noble consort Zheng, Her Majesty the Empress is unwell, so she has excused everyone from greetings today. I asked with concern. Is it serious? Did she not rest well last night? Before I even finished speaking, one of the concubines laughed out loud. Even the always calm and composed consort Ji Shu had a slight smile on her lips. After what happened last night, which sharp-eyed person in the harem wouldn't have heard the news? The attendant at Jiafeng Hall lowered their eyes, face obedient, but clearly there was suppressed humiliation and anger in their gaze. Replying to noble consort Zheng, the imperial physician has already visited. Her Majesty's illness is not serious, she just needs good rest. Since the empress is ill, it's only right for us sisters to visit her. I was the first to step into Jiafeng Hall. Consort Ji Shu and the others followed closely behind. The eunuch did try to stop us, but how could he possibly hold us back? The empress stepped out from the inner hall, her usual gentle facade completely gone. That dignified and beautiful face was clouded with gloom, her eyes like blades dipped in poison, sweeping coldly over everyone before locking onto me. She said coldly, now that you've all seen me and I'm still alive, are you disappointed? I gently replied, we concubines were only worried about your Majesty's health. Now that we've seen you, we're relieved and shall take our leave. Please take care of your phoenix body. The other concubines chimed in one after another. Under the empress's sharp gaze, I strode out of Jiafeng Hall with long, confident steps. Ever since I entered the palace, the empress has held a deep grudge against me. After what happened last night, she must hate me even more now. She's held back until now. It's about time she made her move. I quietly made a hand signal. Beauty Lu fainted. In an instant, chaos erupted in front of Jiafeng Hall. The imperial physician rushed over and diagnosed Beauty Lu with a pregnancy pulse. We all quickly offered our congratulations. Even the empress's pale face lit up with a smile. This is wonderful news. Go report to the emperor immediately. The emperor still has no children under his knee. Not only did he personally oversee everything in Beauty Lu's palace, but he also sent the stewardess from Weiyang Palace to look after her. Beauty Lu enjoys eating delicate southern pastries. I like them too. I had the imperial kitchen make 2 portions and sent Luna to deliver one to Beauty Lu. After nightfall, news came from Beauty Lu's side. She finished the pastries and was safe and sound, just as I expected. With such a perfect 2 birds, 1 stone opportunity, the empress actually wouldn't make a move. Beauty Lu and I repeated the same trick a few more times. Every time, we got through it safely. I'm not in a rush, just continuing to test her patience. 3 pregnant concubines in the harem have died one after another. I don't believe the empress can stay calm. But Beauty Lu got anxious, because she wasn't pregnant at all. She came to Zhaoyang Hall to see me, looking troubled as she said, noble consort, if we don't act soon, they'll see through my fake pregnancy. I calmed her down, my gaze lingering on her blue ruchuan. Then I mused thoughtfully, maybe, what the empress wants is to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. On the day of Mid-Autumn Festival, the palace held the usual night banquet, and officials of 3rd rank and above could bring their families. When a little palace maid subtly led me toward the imperial garden, I curled my lips into a cold smile. The empress finally couldn't resist making her move. Inside the imperial garden, palace lanterns hung high, candlelight flickered, casting a glow over the exotic rocks and famed flowers, making it look like a fairyland palace. Lu Mateo and Xianxia strolled along the flower path, looking like a celestial couple. Beauty Lu entered the imperial garden from another gate and reached them before I did. After getting pregnant, Beauty Lu's personality completely changed. It was like she had turned into another me. She sneered sarcastically. This must be Lord Lu's son, right? I saw you at the palace banquet last year. Back then, you were still engaged to the noble consort. When I heard that young Master Lu and the noble consort broke off the engagement, I thought you had gone into seclusion. Turns out it was because... Beauty Lu glanced at Xianxia, covered her lips with a mocking smile full of ridicule. Under the palace lantern, Xianxia and Lumateo's faces looked as if they had been splashed with ink, one more miserable than the other. Beauty Lu seemed unaware and continued speaking. The noble consort got dumped before even leaving the boudoir, and now she's the emperor's favorite. Guess it really was a blessing in disguise. I couldn't help but chuckle and stepped out from the shadows. Beauty Lu beamed as she stepped forward. As she passed Xianxia, the two suddenly tumbled together into the nearby lotus pond. I gasped and quickly called the eunuchs to pull them out. Beauty Lu clutched her belly, crying out in pain. Her dress was soaked in bloodstains. The imperial physicians rushed over, drenched in sweat. After checking her pulse, they all dropped to their knees en masse. Beauty Lu had a miscarriage. Lumateo and Xianxia were detained for interrogation. Everyone who came to the banquet from their two families knelt outside the Hall of Supreme Harmony. I was kneeling too, right outside the imperial study, for a full 15 minutes, for as long as I can remember. I've never pushed my body this hard. If the Empress doesn't show up, I'm not acting anymore. After waiting a bit longer, the Empress finally arrived. She ascended the steps and stopped right in front of me, looking down from above, speaking gently. Noble consort Jing, you've always been close with Beauty Lu. She lost her child. This palace knows your heart must be heavy too. You were present when Beauty Lu fell into the water. Why didn't you grab her? I covered my face and wept, offering no excuses or explanations, only raw sincerity and helplessness. I only wish for Beauty Lu to recover quickly now. I begged the emperor to take care of his health. The empress looked as if her punch had landed in cotton. Her gaze suddenly dimmed, falling on me with a complicated glint. Then she composed herself and entered the imperial study. Moments later, sounds of an argument came from inside the imperial study. The empress came out with a grim expression. The chief eunuch rushed over to support me. Oh dear, your grace, why are you still kneeling? Please, get up quickly, don't hurt yourself. I slowly stood up, swayed, and then collapsed straight into Luna. The chief eunuch shouted, noble consort has fainted. Call the imperial physician, quick. It's about time I got pregnant. The downfall of the Shen family is already foreseeable. However, the emperor and empress have been husband and wife for many years after all. Unfortunately, their feelings were ultimately defeated by power. The empress plotted against the imperial heir, and the Shen family's power ran unchecked. They became a thorn in the emperor's side. But what happens after the empress and the Shen family are brought down? I'll reign supreme in the harem, and my father will do the same at court. Will the emperor regret hurting the empress and then take his anger out on me? By then, I'm afraid the Jing family and I will be the next thorn in the emperor's side. So, I must get pregnant. Fainting, that was an act. Pregnancy, also something I planned to fake, but the imperial physician said, I'm actually pregnant. On second thought, that works too. Saves me a lot of risk. And it spares my mother the trouble of hunting down fertility remedy or finding young, strong men for me. The political wind shifted fast. Memorials to impeach Grand Preceptor Shen and the Shen clan popped up like bamboo shoots after the rain, piling up before the throne. The emperor flew into a rage and appointed two top officials to jointly investigate the matters in the memorials. This time, it was the empress's turn to kneel outside the imperial study. She knelt for a full 2 hours. As someone who prides herself on being virtuous and kind, of course I had to plead for the empress. Then I had the inner attendants persuade her back to Jiafeng Hall. If she kept kneeling and something happened, the emperor's heart might soften. That would ruin everything and complicate things. The empress had lost her former dignity and glared at me fiercely. I said with concern, stop glaring. What if your eyeballs pop out and scare everyone? That wouldn't be good. She pointed at me and cursed. Zheng Sophia, you venomous bitch. I should have had you and that vixen from the Wang family scrapped from the start. I froze for a moment, a whirlwind of thoughts crashing chaotically in my mind. I thought of Wang Ren. We've been close since 2 years ago. Uncle Wang intended to send Isabella into the palace. Isabella said she wanted to go to Xianxia Temple outside the city to pray before entering the palace, so I accompanied her there. We brought plenty of guards with us at the time, but still ran into powerful bandits. While running, Isabella and I got separated. My family's guards shielded me and my maid into the woods, where we met monks from Xianxia Temple, and we were all safe and sound. My father and Uncle Wang personally brought people over and searched with us for a whole day and night. It wasn't until the next morning that Isabella was found by the river. When Isabella woke up, she said her maid and the guards were all killed. She was chased by the bandits and jumped into the river, was carried to the shore by the current, and barely escaped with her life. However, the rumor that Isabella had been kidnapped by bandits spread like wildfire. Her reputation was ruined. She couldn't enter the palace anymore. and no respectable families were willing to marry her. In despair, Isabella hanged herself. Luckily, she was found in time and saved. After that, the Wang family married her off to someone in another region. Turns out, the bandit incident was orchestrated by the Empress. All the questions I had back then suddenly made sense in an instant. No wonder there were such fierce bandits near the capital city, strong enough to overpower even the guards from both our families, and they completely vanished without a trace afterward. No wonder the bandits didn't chase me after I got separated from Isabella. They were after her all along. Also, even though my father and Uncle Wang, the news still leaked, and it ended up being common knowledge. So that's how it is. My body wobbled and I lost control, stumbling backwards several steps. I barely managed to steady myself with a hand on the table. It was you who got Isabella hurt, the Empress sneered. You all deserve to die. After saying that, she started laughing and crying at the same time, like a madwoman. I took a deep breath, forced myself to calm down, and walked toward Zhaoyang Hall. I told Luna, send out 2 letters, one to my father, asking him to pass a message to Lord Wang, and another to Bingzhou. The truth about the bandit incident from 2 years ago needs to be known by both the Wang family and Isabella. Isabella married a military officer from Bingzhou. She brings prosperity to her husband. Now her husband's family already holds military power in the region. Consort Jishu came to visit me. I suddenly remembered the consort registry my mother had prepared for me. Before me, the only consort was Consort Jishu. Consort Jishu didn't come from a noble family, but because she once helped the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager asked the Emperor to promote her before she passed away. Looking at all the beauties in the harem, none of them came from high status backgrounds. Otherwise, I wouldn't have risen to power so smoothly and arrogantly after entering the palace. As for those with noble lineage, they probably all ended up like Isabella, dealt with in advance. All kinds of evidence against the Shen family kept surfacing non-stop. First, Grand Preceptor Shen was stripped of his official hat, and then his whole family was thrown into prison. The Empress again knelt outside the imperial study. She wore a plain thin dress, speaking of the young affection between her and the Emperor, pleading for the Shen family. From the break of dawn until the stars filled the sky, she finally, unsurprisingly, fainted. At the same time, she also managed to soften the Emperor's heart. But that's fine. I still have my trump card. The Emperor came to Zhaoyang Hall to see me, or rather, to visit the child in my belly. Seeing he was in a troubled mood, I just quietly kept him company. Suddenly, he asked, when was your engagement with Lu Mateo set? I answered truthfully, when I was still in my mother's womb. Our 2 families agreed that if my mother gave birth to a daughter, she would be betrothed to the Lu family. The Emperor stared at me intently for a while, then asked again, when he broke off the engagement, did you hate him? I softened my voice, slow and gentle, and said, at first I did hate him, but later I let it go. Actually, I should thank him for breaking off the engagement. Otherwise how could I have entered the palace to be by your majesty's side, and now be about to have a little prince or a little princess? The Emperor's gaze fell on my belly, then shifted back to my face. At last his brows relaxed, and a smile spread across his face. Olivia, being with you is the most relaxing. This was the first time he called my name. Of course he would feel relaxed, because I had been deliberately pleasing him all along. I had my own agenda after all. I walked to the table to pour tea for the Emperor. My hand got burned by accident. The Emperor immediately exclaimed, summon the imperial physician, then, gently held my hand and asked, does it hurt? I shook my head slightly and softly reassured, just a little burn. It doesn't hurt. I have a jar of ointment. It works for burns, mosquito bites, anything really. It'll heal up quickly. I had Luna bring out the ointment. The Emperor personally took the ointment and applied it for me. Before long, the imperial physician arrived. The physician examined the burn on the back of my hand, and his expression gradually turned serious as he hurried to check my pulse. Both the Emperor and I watched him anxiously. The Emperor asked, how is the noble consort's condition? Reporting to your majesty, the noble consort is unharmed. After replying, the physician wiped his sweat and then asked, may I ask, your grace, is there any ointment left? Might I have a look at it? I pointed to the small jar on the table. It's right there. The physician picked it up and sniffed it, then rubbed some on his hand and leaned in to smell it again. His expression suddenly changed, and he hurriedly knelt before the Emperor and me. Your Majesty, your Grace, this ointment contains aconite and wolfsbane, which can cause reckless movement of heated blood. It must not be used again. I turned pale with fright and muttered, how could this happen? The Emperor waved the physician away. Then, in a gentle voice, he coaxed me, don't worry, my love. The imperial physician said you and the baby are fine. Just lie down and rest for a while. I softly responded and lay down on the couch. Then, he walked out of the inner hall. I vaguely heard him questioning the people around me. The ointment was sent by attendant Qing. It was tucked among a bunch of gifts and didn't stand out. However, Beauty Lu saw it and said Qin Jieyu once had the same kind of ointment. Last year, when Qin Jieyu was diagnosed as pregnant, it was just the start of summer. She was bothered by mosquitoes every day. After getting that jar of ointment, she used it often. Before the height of summer, she miscarried and died in grief. I sat up from the couch, a cold laugh slipping from my throat. I had deliberately waited until now to bring out the ointment. No way was I getting burned for nothing. I strode out of the inner hall, eyes damp. Emperor, stop questioning them. As the words left my mouth, my tears also fell. The emperor rushed over to me and held me as we returned to the inner hall. Choking up, I said, Emperor, the baby and I are fine. Let it go. All right, I won't pursue it. He coaxed me into bed to rest, only leaving once I had fallen asleep. As soon as he left, I opened my eyes. Luna came in to report. My lady, arrangements have been made at the Imperial Medical Bureau. When physician who reviews Qin Jieyu's medical records, he'll be caught by Chief Physician Liu. Physician who is the one who checks my pulse. He was the first physician I bribed after entering the palace. Chief Physician Liu is the head of the physicians, upright and devoted to medicine. Having him expose Qin Jieyu's matter is the most appropriate. Attendant Qing delivering ointment isn't a secret. One investigation and it'll be obvious. With Attendant Cheng's personality, I don't even need to ask. I already know she'll definitely name the Empress. But who is the Empress? Attendant Qing won't have solid evidence. The Emperor's heir issue is both family business and national business. The court officials won't turn a blind eye. The eunuch reported to me, my lady, during this morning's court session, Lord Jing took the lead in requesting the Emperor to punish Attendant Qing severely. Lord Jing said, if heaven hadn't intervened, you would have followed in Qin Jieyu's footsteps. I nodded thoughtfully. Father's actions do seem to be pressuring the Emperor, but at this point, there's no turning back for us. Since father made this move, I have to take it on. When the Emperor came to Zhaoyang Hall, his mood was visibly gloomy. It wasn't that he couldn't let go of Attendant Qing. It was because of the Empress. This time, Attendant Qing was punished severely. Next time, when it's the Empress's turn, it won't be easy to let her off lightly. I knelt before him, my voice slightly trembling, half joking, half serious, with a sincere tone. Ever since the imperial edict for me to be conferred as consort was issued, my parents have been worried day and night. My father said that 3 pregnant concubines had died in succession in the palace, and he couldn't rest easy about me, but he also said the Emperor is a wise ruler. As long as I serve the Emperor wholeheartedly after entering the palace and stay cautious in daily life, nothing will happen. My father, he's just worried about me, not intending any disrespect toward the Emperor. The Emperor's anger subsided greatly. He personally helped me up and softly scolded, you're still pregnant. How can you be so careless with your body? From now on, skip all formalities, no more kneeling. I leaned my head on his shoulder and whispered, to me, the Emperor is just like a husband in an ordinary household. The Emperor held me tightly and slowly said, during this morning's court session, your father didn't seem like an imperial court minister, more like a concerned old father. He was right. Thank the heavens you and the child escaped danger. I can't indulge her anymore. Nothing must happen to you again. I buried my head in his arms and quietly curved into a faint smile. The Emperor ordered an investigation into the case of Qin Jieyu being harmed. Soon, evidence of the Empress's crime was uncovered. As expected, it wasn't that the truth couldn't be found before, but that the Emperor had never truly resolved to investigate it. My father took the lead again. He petitioned the Emperor to depose the Empress. This time, I couldn't read his intent. My father isn't someone who acts on impulse. He's always liked using roundabout tactics to get things done, just like how he clearly wanted the position of Minister of the Ministry of Personnel. Yet he deliberately requested to manage river works and recommended someone else for the post. His rival held the minister position for 3 months before getting dismissed, and my father, after that, firmly secured the role. I had someone send a message back, asking Mother to come to the palace to see me. Mother dressed to the nines, wearing her noblewoman's ceremonial attire, and she looked pretty well. She bowed to me, and I quickly helped her up. Mother, have you been well lately? I'm doing well. Now that I've seen your grace the noble consort, I feel even better. I softened my gaze, smiled gently, and dismissed the attendants. After chatting with Mother about family matters for a while, I finally asked her what father was really up to. Mother let out a quiet sigh. After receiving your message yesterday, your father said you would definitely ask that. He said he doesn't want to become another Shinroan. Shinroan is the formal name of Grand Preceptor Shin. But isn't what father is doing now no different from what Shinroan did? After the Shin family collapsed, father quickly absorbed their influence, and now all the court officials look to him as their leader. The way he's doing things, there must be something more behind it, or maybe, he's already made his move, which is why he's acting so fearless. The evidence against the empress just keeps piling up, like the women who died in the palace, such as Qin Jieyu, who was pregnant when she was killed, and the young ladies who were persecuted before they could even enter the palace, like Wang Ren, who narrowly escaped death. The empress was deposed and moved to the cold palace. I don't want to kick someone when they're down, but even more, I don't want to leave any trouble for myself later. Besides, father wants the child in my belly to ascend the throne early. After understanding father's strategies and intentions, I was shocked, but after thinking it through, I agreed with his approach. Rather than living in constant fear and trying to please everyone, it's better to risk everything in one bold move. Maybe for the Jing family, taking one more step forward is the best possible plan. I went to the cold palace. Now the deposed Empress Shin wears plain clothes, no makeup, and her eyes are full of dead ashes, like lifeless wood. When she saw me, she just looked up once, then sneered. Are you here to laugh at me? No. I walked to within 3 steps of her, keeping a straight face, and spouted nonsense. I just want to talk to you. She laughed so hard she cried. I really underestimated you. If you want to laugh, go ahead. The biggest mistake of my life wasn't letting you off back then. It was letting Xianxia off. Ever since she was born, father and mother's attention was stolen by her. She caused trouble all the time growing up, and I took the punishment. It wasn't until I married the emperor and became the empress that I finally became someone special. The emperor was everything to me, but there were always people trying to take him from me. I hated every one of you. If not for Xianxia, you wouldn't have had your engagement annulled, wouldn't have entered the palace, and I'd still be the empress, still by the emperor's side. As for the Shin sisters' drama, I don't know and I don't care. I only know that they're all finished. The emperor didn't kill the Shin family. The whole family was exiled to Lingnan. Heh, I don't care about them. Then do you care about the emperor? She suddenly looked up, light quickly gathering in her eyes, then lowered her gaze again. I stepped closer to her and lowered my voice. The emperor has been unable to eat or sleep, all because of you. He wants to release you from the cold palace, but too many people died by your hands. He has to think of the bigger picture. Like Isabella, though she narrowly escaped death, she still suffered greatly. Now her father, in law, holds military power in one region and has sent a memorial to the capital city. The deposed empress is a smart woman. I left it at that. Oh right. Attendant Qing committed suicide. She fell silent for a while. I got what I wanted and turned to leave. Suddenly, she opened up. Jing Sophia, you know what? You're actually a lot like Xianxia. You both shine. Confident, bold, full of light. You were both children carefully protected by your parents, but you're also different. Xianxia was dumb and didn't realize it. A dam can collapse from a tiny ant hole. The Shin family fell because of her, just like that. Collapsed completely. You're smart. After entering the palace, you were arrogant and overbearing, but you managed that arrogance perfectly, just enough to stay within what the emperor could tolerate. You seem impatient and reckless, but in reality, you're more patient than anyone. You knew I hated Xianxia and the blue attire, yet you always wore blue right in front of me just to annoy me, making me hate you all even more, until I couldn't help but take action against Xianxia too. And consort Jishu and Beauty Lu, those fence-sitters, they started wearing blue attire too just to please you. I chuckled lightly. Thanks for the compliment. She gave a self-deprecating laugh. I wasn't like this when I first entered the palace. I was full of curiosity and hope about my new life in the imperial palace. Everyone, except the Empress Dowager and the Emperor, had to bow and greet me, especially after the Empress Dowager passed away. I was the highest in the entire harem. Without realizing it, I turned into someone I didn't recognize anymore. The person I used to be was eventually swallowed by these towering palace walls, crushed under the glittering phoenix crown. Those words became her dying testament. She took her own life. The Emperor was shocked by the terrible news, turned pale, and coughed up a mouthful of blood. His illness hit him like a landslide. Once he collapsed, court was suspended for many days. I went to his bedside every day to attend to him, but since I was pregnant, he wouldn't let me near, much less take care of him. He said he was afraid I'd catch the sickness, until one day, he suddenly asked. Anything important going on in court lately? The head eunuch cautiously glanced at me, hesitating, then replied, reporting to your majesty, there's nothing urgent. The emperor grew suspicious. I seemed completely unaware. Still the noble consort devoted solely to serving the emperor. Even as my belly grew bigger, I still insisted on accompanying him. His health kept deteriorating, and the moments he was lucid became fewer and fewer. All the imperial physicians were at a complete loss. The entire imperial palace, even the whole capital city, felt shrouded in dark clouds. That day, I was just about to head to Weiyang Palace to accompany the emperor. I hadn't even stepped out the door when a sharp pain suddenly struck my belly. The attendants rushed off to summon the imperial physicians, and the maids hurried over too. Giving birth turned out to be such an excruciating ordeal. I nearly drained all the strength and luck I had in this lifetime just to deliver the child. It was a prince. Nice. Less trouble that way. The firstborn prince was born. Ignoring everyone's attempts to stop me, I carried the child myself to Weiyang Palace to show the emperor. The emperor dismissed everyone else and asked, Olivia, tell me the truth. Why did the empress take her own life? Before she killed herself, I had visited the cold palace. Anyone would suspect me. I replied gently. When I visited her that day, her mood had already calmed down. We talked a lot. What did she say? She said that ever since she was little, her parents favored her younger sister and not her. Only after marrying the emperor did she feel warmth and care. She realized her mistakes and only wished the emperor well. At this point, my eyes grew slightly moist, with a hint of guilt showing in them. I was foolish and failed to hear any signs of suicidal intent in her words. After a long while, the emperor finally said, I understand. You've just given birth to the royal heir. Don't cry, try to relax. I held his hand, my eyes slightly red. Your Majesty, please get well soon, so you can watch our royal heir grow up. The child and I both need you. Olivia, you've done well. I can rest easy. As he finished speaking, his arm fell. I checked his pulse. Then, taking a deep breath, I shouted, someone, imperial physician. The eunuchs and the physician rushed into the hall. After checking the pulse, the physician knelt on the ground and said in a panic, the emperor has passed away. I threw myself onto the dragon bed, crying my heart out. I kept up the act till the end. He was the emperor, the supreme ruler. Even though my father and I plotted for him to die of illness, we never underestimated him. Just now, he held on with his last breath to say so much to me. If I had answered even one word wrong, I'm afraid I'd already be in the afterlife with him by now. The young heir ascended the throne. I became the Empress Dowager and ruled from behind the curtain. Uncle Lu submitted a petition to resign. I tried to persuade him to stay. He bowed deeply to me. The new emperor has ascended and the court is unstable. I wish I could sacrifice myself to ease the Empress Dowager's burden. But considering my family's close ties with your majesty, if I stay in the capital, it might give petty men an excuse to stir trouble and become a threat at your majesty's side. So Uncle Lu was trying to avoid trouble. He was afraid I'd take revenge on Lu Mateo, or even bring down the whole Lu family. I wouldn't do that. Uncle Lu and my father served in the imperial court together for many years. Father often praised Uncle Lu as a capable minister in times of peace. When we brought down Grand Preceptor Shin, Uncle Lu stood with our Jing family the whole way and helped uncover a lot of the Shin family's crimes. Now that the new emperor has just taken the throne, the imperial court is in need of talent. I tried to talk him into it. In the end, I settled for second best and had Uncle Lu take a local official post. Hopefully he can bring good to the people there. As for Lu Mateo calling off the engagement, I let that go a long time ago. To me, romance is just a small thing, not worth holding on to. It's just a broken engagement, not a matter of life and death, and definitely not something worth collective punishment. My focus has long been on the entire court, on the fate of the nation,